This meeting is being recorded.
So, did anybody take notes about the fact we just passed that we don't have any? David Robinson here?
No, he isn't. So there's Robert and a bunch of people. So somehow we got the people to go across the screen and unmute themselves last time. Yeah, I can't see it very well. You'll see there's Patrick. Hold your hand up, Patrick. There he is. There's John, it looks like. John, there's a John J-O-N, it looks like. There's Randy. There's Robert Orndorff, David, two Davids, both KO4s, Nathaniel, JB, Ed, Doc. There are more, and there's Bill and Judy and Melanie. Is that everybody? Okay. Is 25 or 30? Does anyone have any old business that needs to be discussed at this point? Okay, what about new business? Do you want to make your announcement, Jim?
I'm Jim Rubin, W4PKR, and we have the Richmond 10K, the UCROPS 10K race is happening on April the 22nd. And I'm sorry? Oh, is it called the Monument? Okay, the Monument Avenue 10K. And so I still need a couple of volunteers. We're going to need a maximum of 15, and I've got most everyone already. We'll have to shape up downtown and be at our locations no later than 6 a.m. And so we can have everybody in place. If you're interested, you can come up and see me. I'll be here till the very end. For those of you who are online, and if you're interested, send me an email at w4pkr@arrl.net. And we met today with George Stark and I were the two net controls. We met with also, and Bill and Judy were with us. We met with the race officials and some of the Richmond and police people who are going to be involved. So there's going to be another meeting later on, go over radio protocol. They have their own radios. And George and I are going to have a meeting where we kind of teach them how to use their radios, which are citywide. I think they may even be on a trunk system, I'm not sure, but they have a repeater, and they're going to have about 55 of their own walkie-talkies, and we'll be basically backup. And going to have people at medical tents. There's 3 of them. There's 3 water stations. There's someone at the volunteer. There may be a shadow following one of the race officials, and 2 net controls, and I want somebody at the starting line, and probably the finish line, and one or 2 floaters. So we'll hammer that out in the coming weeks. I can't guarantee that everybody that wants to be in it will be in it. But if you're interested, w4pkr@arrl.net. And with that, back to net control.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, what about committees? Educational committee, Bruce, did you have anything to say about classes?
Yeah. George, you there? George Stark? Oh, he's got what, 17 people? Yeah, 17 people. So tech started Tuesday night, has 17 people completely. Anyway, he filled the classroom 202. You and I have for extra 5, 6, 7. Oh, good. All right. And let's see, general is we got, do you remember, Mail, how many you got? We got 4 or 5, I think, right? Yeah. And we have 2 for remote hams, and we've done our first of the 2 classes for that. Robert, do we have any for antenna modeling yet? Yeah. There's one, okay. And I don't think we have any for D-Star yet, do we? No, okay. So you can still sign up for those cameras here. Where's the camera, right? You can still sign up for those online till towards the end of the month, like 20th or something like that of March. You can still sign up for those.
Which
And the only-
ones?
Sorry, what?
Which ones can you sign up for?
Extra, general, the antenna modeling, and D-Star. No, remote's gone. It's already started. And tech's already started. And the other thing is, Dave Stevens is teaching a very small class at Hopewell Middle School who are kids going for the licenses. Well, it's a small group. It wasn't what we thought, but he got far enough into the process of prepping and he figured, well, let's go through with it. And we're using the same new curriculum they're using for tech. And he's in communication with the guy who put the curriculum together. So they're very interested in what it's like to teach the middle schoolers and how it has to be adapted for them. So it looked like it'd be worth doing just for that purpose. So, okay, boss, that's it.
Thank you, Bruce. Are there any other committees, technical issues? Dan, did you have anything to say about marketing or anything like publicity or? Okay. All right.
Give a quick D-Star update. We don't usually have anything to talk about D-Star wise, but last Wednesday night, we Wednesday afternoon, or this week, Wednesday, we had a piece of construction equipment downtown, took out the internet connection to our building that we get our internet from for the D-Star repeater. And it came back up, but our repeater's connection did not come back up. So I went down and spent a few hours and I finally had it working. And by the time I got home, it had stopped working again. It worked great for 2 hours. And Armand suffered through the net we have on Wednesday nights where a lot of people from outside the area come in via hotspots and connect to our repeaters, but they were able to talk to each other, but they couldn't talk to anybody on the radio. Anyway, I went back today with a new router and got the internet back at the repeater site, but we still haven't got a connection. And I noticed that the fan on the UHF amplifier had stopped working. So I had to turn off the UHF module. Otherwise we would have burned up the amplifier with no cooling. So make a long story short, D-Star that sometimes works for literally years without having to touch it has had a bad week, but we have a solution and we're going to work on all of it. I brought the computer back, the Linux box that I'm not capable of doing much with, to Jim Bates, and he's got it at his house as of today. And we'll get that going, and hopefully by early next week we'll have everything back in order. But if you're trying to use D-Star, the UHF module is not on the air and there's no internet connectivity, but I'm sure it'll be fixed in a couple of days. That's D-Star.
Thank you, Win. I had one business type announcement. I would like to have a board meeting at the end of the April meeting like we did last time. A lot of the board members are here. If everyone is okay with that, just a brief board meeting after following the other meeting. Anybody done anything on the radio that's cool recently? Not well. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know how many of you have done the required give the FCC your email address and your new sign on and get out of the legacy course and get into the new course. I hadn't. And Patrick up here wanted to renew his license and he asked me to help him out. So I said, well, I at least have to go through this because he had to. So I went through it. Patrick has, and I made notes. I sent it to Patrick. Patrick did it. He even went further. And applied for a new vanity call sign. So I'm going to try to pick his brain when we go and actually do his renewal, which is what started this. But I went through the process. So if you have not yet given the FCC an email address and gone through that process, I will tomorrow probably post the steps that go through, which I have screenshots to say you go here, there's a red arrow on almost all the screens that say this is what you click to get through it. It's not exactly a hard process. It's a little tedious. The other thing I will tell you is they say, we got rid of the legacy and we got this new thing. they added a new sign-on on top. Okay, if you remember the old one, you gave your FRN number and a password. Guess what you have to do in the new one? Email address, password, FRN, that password from the legacy. It's the same password. So they just added this little layer on top, which made it a little easier to program, but the same stuff you still need to know. But as I say, you do that, you connect the old FRM to the new account that you created, and then you can do the things such as vanity, renew your license, pay fees, on all that. So it'll be out on the internet tomorrow, our website. Good luck to all of you when you do it. If you have problems, call me.
Thank you, Ken. I hadn't heard about that. Was that, I didn't see it in QST or things. Everyone else know about that? That's the first I heard about it. Anyway, ignorance is.
They said they wanted it. I think they actually started it at 15. And then last year in October or November was, okay, big launch. And that was it. QST did have an article about it, but it really didn't say a whole lot.
Just an announcement or reminder that next weekend is the Virginia State QSO party. And so I plan on working it, and I hope a lot of you all do too. So we have a big club, so we could really put up a good score if we get a lot of participation. So hope to work you.
I read somewhere that if Virginia's got a few more hundred people, we'd be competitive with some other states who swamp us every time. So did you have something you want to say? So some just wait. How about you, man? Would you like to sing? All right. I don't want to keep rubbing in 10 meters to people that don't have it.
Story is that he and I go back and forth on text or who's making contacts. So I very happily said, I got Finland for the first time. What does he come back and say?
New Caledonia. But you know, the funny thing about 10 meters is there can be like no signal, maybe one signal. And I heard this guy FK4 QZ or QX. And last night I heard, well, there was one signal on the band. It was a JH8 something from Sapporo, Japan. And he seemed to be preferentially hearing people from the 8 and 9 call areas, but I eventually got in there. But there's something odd about propagation. It's very spotty. You think a country like Japan, if you can hear one, you should hear 100. And this guy said he was only running 50 watts, but he had a 7-element monobander. So 10 meters, people call 6 meters a magic band, but I think 10 meters is even more magic, more consistently. So everybody, novices and techs, and everyone can work 10 meters. You got, I think it's 28.3 to 28.5 for techs. I know you have to have an HF radio, but this is the time to do it because this is one of the better sunspot cycles I can remember in the last 20, 25 years. So it's the time to do it. So last night I worked the Japanese guy, had to use an amplifier though. But once these people get spotted on the spotting networks, forget it, because then all the big guns and the rude people come on there. But if you can be the first one to hear them, but it's like the band is totally quiet. You see one little signal there. So anyway, all right. So anybody have any other comments or anything before we adjourn? Go ahead, sir.
I'm going to be going to Dayton. It's the weekend before Memorial Day, and I've already got the hotel reservation. Just looking for somebody to help drive. And so if anybody's interested in going to Dayton, see me and we can, you know, make plans of where to meet and all that kind of stuff. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to Dayton. This third time's a charm. This is so the first 2 times I wanted to go, COVID and everything else killed it.
Right. Anybody have anything else before we have a motion to adjourn the business meeting? Can I have a motion to adjourn the business meeting? Second, all in favor of adjourning? All right, tonight we have a special treat. This is a man who needs no introduction. Our own Bruce McAllister is going to be talking about hooking up radios to computers. Take it away, Bruce.
Curious. How many of you have your radios hooked up to computers? Okay, how about out there in? Okay, so more than half of you have. I'm not surprised by that, but I've had a couple of people say, well, I don't, or I can't get it to work right. Will you tell us how to do it? So that's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and demo some of it so that you're not stuck with death by PowerPoint. So anyway, it has a title. Because
You want to go full screen?
well, that's as full as it gets.
No.
Well, if I get rid of this,
If you go up to view. If you go up to view, and you'll see full screen.
all right, I'll let you do it.
Okay.
Oh, you use view, see this view? And I go up to view and then presentation, that's usually what does it.
Well, presentation.
This is a PowerPoint as a PDF. You want me to do the PowerPoint? I'll do the PowerPoint. I can do native PowerPoint, but I don't think it's any better.
Yeah, well, this doesn't seem to have a full view.
Oh, I know what's happening. Excuse me. This is
Oh,
the
yes.
one I have to do mirror on. You know, we've been having plenty of technical problems in this evening. It's F8.
Yeah. Give a second.
Well, the problem is when I have, see, Zoom takes over the world. So if you're doing Zoom, let me stop sharing. Let me get Zoom down here. No matter what I do, it won't.
Yeah, minimize Zoom. You could just do full speaker view.
Yeah, I'm just,
gallery.
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. I need to get,
You give them.
oh, that's right. I'm not hooked up to the projector. Damn. That's why it's not doing what I want it to do.
Oh, because that's right. There's nothing to send it to.
Right.
Okay, so that's the best we can do. Okay.
Well, I can put it over on this machine, but then that's going to add more.
No, let's get you back up on screen.
All right. Well, I got to start Zoom again.
No, hold on.
It wasn't bad here, Bruce.
Well, we had to mess with it, you know.
Yeah, it's when you got to mess with something, that's okay.
Well, part of the confusion is I'm usually hooked up to the projector with my computer, but we're not. We're using the club's computer to hook up to the projector. And so I was looking for the wrong thing. And this is an old, slow one. My fast one, I leave at home. Mainly because it's got personal stuff on it. I don't want to get out. I grew up in the world of being secure.
Well, how did you get it up on the screen at all if this isn't plugged into anything?
I was in Zoom.
Log back into Zoom.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
We're trying to find it on the, there it is. Can you click on that?
Share your screen.
Well, I haven't got Zoom up yet. This is a little
Can
crazy.
you go down to the dock here? No,
Well,
this
here's
is
the dock. The dock is here at the side.
on the side, okay.
All right. Oh, here's Zoom up here. All right.
Did you just drop it?
Okay, so I'm still here. That's my problem. I never left. It just minimized. I didn't see it. All right, shall we try this again?
There you go.
All right, is this readable?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're ahead. Okay. So here's the fancy introduction. That, by the way, is my station. So I have a very minimal station. That's funny that it's showing that thing on the side on yours, but not on mine. Yeah, I don't know why that would be. Well, anyway, you'll be able to see what's going on here. So that's my station. You can see in the background the computer that's hooked up to it. You know, it's hooked up to the radio that you see here in the foreground. So it's 7300. The other radios, VHF, UHF, I don't do anything with the computer on that. All right. So in terms of connecting to the computer, these are kind of your choices. The simplest one is just digital modes. You don't actually need to do any tuning on that because the digital modes are kind of fixed, and I'll show you that in a second. And then for logging, and there the advantage of being on having the computer hooked up is it'll give you your frequencies, that sort of thing. Then there's computer control of the radio, which has some other advantages to it. And then there's remote control of the radio. Other than using the club's remote control, I don't do that, but I know some hams that do a lot of that. So this basically is how it's rigged up. You're going to have 3 streams of data, if you will. Could be 3 wires. You're going to have a control stream if you decide to do the control part. That's usually USB, but it could be other things as well. And then you're going to have the audio, 2 cables, audio input and output. So those are the ones you need. Now, on some of the newer computers, this is not showing the entire thing. I don't know why that is. On some of the newer ones, they combine all of that audio and control in a single USB cable. And essentially they put it together into a stream on the radio, and the software on your computer takes it apart again. This is why you don't have to worry about having automatic tuning. Because when you're doing digital modes, you know, you go to 70.040 and just sit there, and you can see all the PSK stuff that's right there. You don't have to tune around. Okay. So when I'm using my little when I'm on vacation and I use my little bit Xbox, this ugly thing right here, I don't need to, I just put on, just tune it with the knob and let it sit there, and then just use audio cables to do the audio part. You don't have to do, all the other stuff. Same thing with JS8 call, FT8, you kind of know the frequencies. Really, they're all in a particular band of frequencies, so it's fairly easy to do. All right, so for digital modes, you only really need a few devices. So this is a fairly simple, I can't see what, oh, that's right. You can't see it, can you? No. Okay. This is, let me get you out of share screen for a second. There we go. So for digital mode, if all you really want to do is digital stuff, a simple little audio cable, not a stereo, a 1R01, okay, just has the tip and the barrel, will work fine to go from the speaker or headphone jack of your radio to the microphone input over here. Okay. I'm sorry, it goes from this, I'm sorry, I'll get it backwards. You go from the speaker here to the audio input over there. So that's all you need for that purpose. To go to the microphone, a lot of the microphones connections are use 3 pieces to it. It has the audio and the tip and the barrel. It has another little notch in between. It's the stereo notch. Well, that one is used for push to talk. on a lot of the radios that use this sort of thing. So what you really have to do is buy a stereo jumper, okay, and peel open this thing and find that part that's for the PTT, pull the disconnect it, and I put a switch on it. Now, the way I do it with the with my Bid X, because I knew I was going to be doing this, I have a sorry it's so ugly, but it works anyway. I have a speaker output here that goes to the computer. Here's my microphone input. And I don't have a separate PTT. So when I put this together, I put a toggle switch on. So when I'm, I get my thing ready to send on PSK, push the toggle switch up, I type my stuff, all that sort of thing, turn it off, the guy comes back to me. So, it's simple, and I didn't want to complicate it a lot. Sometimes you may have to let somebody in over here, Jim. I'm hearing the sound of. Sometimes I need, if I'm going to a computer that does not have this kind of an input output thing, I'll get one of these little sound card dongles. It's got speaker and microphone on it, plug it in, powered by the USB. So that's how I make that part work. So I don't bother having a computer connection to this in terms of controlling it, because I just put it on the frequency for, PSK or whatever I'm doing and just let it go. Now, when you get into assisted logging, let me get back on shared screen here again. I don't think I got it in. Okay. So, the couple of tricky parts of the audio connection. One is the mono versus stereo thing. You may have to modify the one that goes into the microphone input. The other thing that's a little tricky is getting the volume set. Getting the volume set coming out of the radio into the audio input to the PSK or whatever else you're using. Usually you can look at the display, the waterfall display, and as you turn the volume up, you'll see it get noisier and noisier. You kind of pull it back so you just see the display without just a little bit of noise in it. On sending a signal to the machine, you've got to kind of look for some splatter. I think it's good to use a remote SDR machine, or I have called people and said, will you listen to my signal and see if I got splatter? Once I've got it figured, I leave it that way, sir. Okay. Excellent. So let me just say that again, because I don't use that.
WSJTX. That's the one for FDA. It has a little bar graph that'll show you it's green if you're driving it okay. And it's, if you don't see it, or you can adjust that in the computer sound settings.
Okay, good. So, and I haven't really looked for that in PSK because I haven't done that much with it. All right. I bet there is, yeah. I found a lot of good advice online for this. This machine is a Microbit X, and I looked it up using the search term you see there. Okay, so are you all seeing the presentation? Are you seeing something over the top of it? Okay. So I put in that search term you see there, and they kind of came down with how to wire it up for audio stuff. Worked very well. And in fact, in setting up all my stuff, I have done a lot of done radio specific lookups. I do it by searching by radio brand or model. Another good resource for me is groups.io, www.groups.io, and they have a topic for just about every radio. You can actually join that topic, and they'll give you notifications once a month or once a week as to what's going on. But you can go into that topic, subscribing it or not, and then look up the thing you're looking for. And if you look up for how to set up your settings on the radio for digital modes, they'll tell you. And of course, you can ask your buddies around town. There we go. So when I got my 7300 and my Raspberry Pi and I want to hook them together, I did IC 7300 digital settings. And I came up with this guy, K0PIR, is big on 7300s and 7610s. So he had all kinds of useful information. So you go out there, do all the settings for digital on your radio, and then it connects up okay with your transmitter. Any questions so far? Let me switch this off share for a second. So when I first started doing this, I had a Kenwood TS940, and it was early days for PSK and digital stuff. So I bought this little kit, and you can find diagrams of how to do them. Sometimes on the audio, you can get some ground loops and some buzzes. And if you do, what you want is something that uses a little transformers, little 600 ohm transformers in and out to give isolation. So you run your audio in through the transformer and back out the other way. You can buy these things cheaply. Back then, it turned out, let's see. This is Buck at KA4ABT. I think it's up in the valley. But he produced a bunch of little kits, and you can buy the kit for less than buy the components for. Plus, it gave me a chance to do some more soldering. And when I first got it, I got it with a microphone connector for Kenwood. So you can get, and you see that on other kinds of devices as well. So you get that connector to plug into your microphone. And it also had a serial cable that you could hook up to your computer, so it could actually do the push to talk sort of thing. So this is what's left of it. I've modified it a couple times. All right, so you've got okay. Let me move off then into from audio to, let's see. So the issue is, let me go over here. Okay, so that's the part I want to show you there. Well, we're shooting the runway. And when you hook it up, I'm going to show you FL Digi, where you do PSK, CW, all Olivia, all those other ones, and RIDI. When you go into FL Digi and you're using sound only, what you would do is go down to the sound card, as you can see here, and pick devices. And then you'll go over here and pick which one with these pull down arrows, which connection you have for audio input and output. And unfortunately, that could be a little tricky, even on a Windows machine. It's trying to figure out, because you have more audio sources in your computer than you ever knew was there. So figuring out which one is yours is the issue. But after a bit, you'll work it through. Does somebody have a question or comment? Okay. So that's how you rig that up. And then, as you see, this is what it would look like when you plugged it up. This is FL Digi. The next part of it is what I call computer assisted logging, where you have the computer read the radio, okay? And usually what it'll give you is the frequency and the mode, single sideband, PSK, that sort of thing. Some of them will give you power out. Some of them will give you RST. And here's an example of by logging. Oh, that was a guy in England. and what it works, and hopefully you can see this. Everything is brought out by the, okay, I have to call in the call sign, but the frequency comes out of the radio, the single sideband, the mode comes out of the radio, and as soon as I hit the tab key, it goes out, in my case, to QRZ. So I've given it the credentials to get to QRZ. It looks it up, and it populates all the stuff you see, the ID, notice that I got an iota number, right? Because England is an island. So I got island on the air. Tells you how far away it is in terms of kilometers. Tells you all kinds of stuff like that. And down the bottom, if you happen to be doing DXCC, which I'm not, it'll tell you whether you have, how many you have found for England and what bands. And up the top, it says a new country for this band. So it gives you that stuff. If you've talked to him before, it'll give you his information up the top. So most of the other ones that you could use, the other logging programs do kind of the same thing. All right, and how you tell a logging program about your radio is you come here. Not a very good focus, is it? Or you tried the focus there? Okay. All right, so what you see is the radio description, which is your description, and then you see the rig. Now that's a pull down list that comes out of something called HamLib. And HamLib is this ingenious thing that I don't know who came up with it, but it's a list of all of the radios that we know about and their characteristics and what commands they take. So your software, whether it's FLDigi or the logging program, gives a, push to talk, gather this information, that sort of thing. And it gets interpreted through the HamLib information. So what you're doing is pulling out the list from HamLib, and then you have to tell it how it's hooked up. So if you see the device over there, now this is running on a Linux machine, actually the Raspberry Pi. So it sees USB 0. You would in Windows see COM 10 or COM 8, something like that. I don't know what it is in Mac because I don't have a Mac, but anyway, that's what you use. You tell it what it is and how it's hooked up. All right. Yeah, we're gonna help. We're gonna get at that with Rick here in a second. Let me see where I am in this, Rick, because I think it's time for a show and tell from you. Okay, so the computer reads the radio using rig control, which I showed you. If you got the newer radio with a USB control and audio, it merges the two together. If you don't, then you talk to someone like Rick, who can show you the other stuff that you can use.
Thank you, Bruce. So like most radios made in the last 10, 15 years have a USB port, but for a lot of the legacy radios that don't have that, this is a Rig Blaster plug and play. They still make these. I think they're like $120. And it comes with cabling that's specific to your radio. So I have an older ICOM radio, so this is specific to that. And it does the cat control and puts the data in there. And this one also has you could do CW through it. Now this one has the speaker and mic outputs. My desktop doesn't have that, so I just use a little sound card. So you can get this cable for whatever you want. If that's too big, then this is called a DigiRig. That's how big it is. And so it's got cables that this will work with Yaesu FT817 and a lot of the other legacy FTs. It also worked with Zygu radios. It's powered through a USB. And here are the cables that just plug into the back of the accessory port and the data port for the 817. So this is pretty much a plug and play for that too, for the Zygu and Yaesu radios.
Yeah, so I know those two that I know of. Of course, this thing that I built was an early version of Build Your Own.
Also, Tigertronics and MFJ, a couple other people make them.
Yeah, so you can buy them, and a lot of times you want to check your radio, make sure the exact model and that sort of thing, and then when you, yeah, right, and so you want to make sure that they have what you want from that point of view. Yeah, well, that's how I ran my old Kenwood 940. Okay. And what you have, right? So that consolidates into a single USB cable, right? Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Right. Do it, let's say it again.
The little tiny black box is one USB cable that goes to the computer. The rig blaster has, you can either, if your computer has speaker and microphone, you can use that. And then you use the if not, I use a USB sound card and then USB for CAT and so on.
So as I said, with the new radios, it's pretty simple. The only thing is to know what your what your setup specs are. That's what I got off the USB, off the internet search. All right, let's see where I am. Okay, no. It looks like I happen to have, I don't know whether I have 2 copies out there or what. I'm getting some really funny reaction to this thing. As some of you may have noticed, we had our new radio decided to give us, a new computer tried to give us trouble. I'm trying to get the presentation back up. Well, I think when I was, it seems to have 2 copies out there. I don't know how that would happen. All right, so we're back up. The problem is you have to lower the screen in order to bring Zoom back up. And you bring Zoom back up and you do a share, then you get back out and bring it back up again. There we go. Oh, left to where we left off. Okay, so there you see what we were just talking about in terms of computer control. This is how my rig is set up. I come out of the back of that 7300 to my Raspberry Pi, and then you see an old television set over there, which HDMI hookup, and that's how I basically run mine. So this is how I rig it up. Now this is when I'm on vacation and I have the BitX. The BitX was never designed for computer control. So they have provided some software or firmware for it that makes it act like it's a Yaesu 718. It's very iffy as to how well it works. John's got a version 6. Mine was version 3. He's got a version 6, and that thing hooks up easily. So they've obviously fixed it in later versions. But you can see you have the same rig control setup. When I'm doing almost anything in the digital mode, I prefer to run it through FL rig because it gives me more control. This will give you an example of the kind of control you've got. This is on my 7300. I can control the power, every button and knob and control I have on my radio, I can control on the screen with FL Rig. And so I will use FL Rig and I'll make FL Digi go through FL Rig. So I control it that way. Also on my logging program, and I don't know about some of the ones that you all use, it also has, you can specify what piece of software is doing the logging. You have a problem if both FL Digi or the WSJT, yes, if they are trying to look at and control the radio at the same time the logging program is. My logging program has a checkbox. You say, okay, you're not in control anymore. Get your stuff from that piece of software over there. So it gets the control for, and the information from FL Digi. Okay. The last piece, and I've not done much of this, is controlling your radio when you're out of town from a distance. Now, the one area that I have done that, and I use VNC for it, is sometimes I keep my wife company downstairs and she's watching a program I don't give a darn about. So I have VNC running on my Raspberry Pi, and I can grab my laptop, my Android tablet, which has and I can have a keyboard on that, and I can do digital modes. So I'm not talking over her. I'm not trying to say things on the radio, but I can glance at the screen every so often and talk to her and sit there and have digital modes. So that's something that you can do fairly easily. And VNC and Team Viewer are a couple of the more popular ones to use. And both of those allow you to have your own personal copy of it at no cost. Okay. There are some of the newer radios you could have a direct internet connection. My 7300, for example, does not, but it's a bigger brother, the 7610, can hook up directly to the internet. It only costs you 3 times as, huh? Oh, the 7610 can't? I thought the 70. Yeah, okay. Well, I think, I'm not sure about Wi-Fi, but I think the 7610 can be plugged directly in. Anybody know for sure? It only costs 3 times as much, so, you know. Anyway, some of them will give you a direct internet connection. You don't have to go through a computer. I know that one logger, and that's Ham Radio Deluxe. I have put the initials wrong. That should be HRD. Ham Radio Deluxe does have a remote capability, so you can control your computer remotely. Let's see. Then there's another one that's really interesting called RigPi, which is and MFJ has been selling it. The RigPi software you can get, it's free. It's a Raspberry Pi, and they put a thing called a hat on the top of it, which has the control links. MFJ was selling it. And then, as you know, after the pandemic, chips became hard to find. Unfortunately, people who put together Raspberry Pi are using a very popular cell phone chip as a basic processor. So guess what? You can't buy a Raspberry Pi, new anyway. And so they're not selling them anymore. But that gives you a box that does the whole thing. You can also do what we have done with our club station. You can actually sign up for remote hams. So you can put your transceiver on remote hams. It means you get a station computer, you load up something called remote ham server, you make the connection with the remote hams people, and it can still be private because you got to have a password to get in. So I'm signed up in remote hams with a password. I can get into the club station because when I go in the club station, remote ham says W4BRU, and our server upstairs in this building looks at W4BRU and says, oh, that's one of ours. So it lets me in. But if it's not on my local server, bye-bye, you aren't going anyplace, okay? So you can set up your own private, if you will, remote thing.
You know, if our remote uses what's called RC Forb,
Yes,
because you can also get that for yourself.
that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, for your, I don't know, that's the same as remote hands, but it's called RC Forb.
Yes,
And you can set it up for your own radio and have a private
yes.
connection.
But you have to, but the way you do that is right, yeah, right. So you can we have upstairs in in our closet, we have a small PC that runs the local version of remote ham server, Windows 7. So when you log into the remote hams headquarters where you've already got a call sign, and then you tell it, and you get a list of all the various stations that are using remote hams. You click that list, and it goes to our machine upstairs and says, hey, I got somebody for you. If you recognize them, then you switch to direct connection between you and the machine upstairs. You can do the same thing with your own radio. You can take your station computer, you can put remote ham local server on it, and then any place you are, you can use RC Forb and get onto the club station or get onto yours. And as long as you haven't given Rick the right to get on it, it'll come with his call sign and say, go away. So that's an easy way to do it, remote hams. The things like ham pie and that sort of thing. If some of you have become addicted, as I have, to the spectrum display and for waterfall, I mean, I've taken to fishing. That thing's a fish finder, right? What ends up happening is you're looking at it and you see a little trailing thing down here, and you say, oh, there's somebody over there. You best to get done CQ and cut off. I run over to the fish finder, okay? I just sit there, and he comes back up. I pounce and grab him, right? And I've never been able to do that before. I could, I kind of go through and listen. Now I can look. This morning, this afternoon, I was looking at getting onto something, and I looked at, I've forgotten 20 or something, and it was dead on a doornail. So I popped on up to 10 meters, and it was very quiet, but a little pips in there, and I went to it, and so I get this guy in, where was he? Slovakia. Okay, S58A or something like that, S58N. Yeah. And so, so I see this little trail here. So I go over there, I sit there. He comes back up again, I pounce. And I've never been able to do that before. And I've become addicted. When we had this single sideband weekend, worldwide ARRL, I didn't have much time. We had a funeral to go to. We had to cook for the funeral. We had church stuff, an annual meeting. The afternoon, Sunday afternoon, about, 2 o'clock, I got on. And in 2.5 hours, I made 48 contacts, of which 41 were outside the United States, had 1 in Canada, 40 were overseas. I've never harvested like that, but I was sitting there fishing. Man, there's one popping there. I'm going to go get it. So it's really great. So I'm addicted. And that's the problem with a lot of the remote stuff is you don't get the display. But with RigPi, you do. And there are a couple of others in which you can get the display. That's the only one I know of. So you can see your waterfall display. Also, if you run your desktop remotely, then you can see the display. Okay, so anyway. So that's my addiction, and I'm proud of it. All right. There are a few private remote radio services that are available. So this is an example of my remote desktop, the way I would see it on my Android tablet. And there's a classic PSK operation done remotely, in which that's why one of the things I like about FL Rig, I can control my radio, from my tablet, as well as do the PSK part. This is what RigPi looks like. The little box down on the left. I don't know why that's not showing. Okay. Little box down on the left has a Raspberry Pi and a bunch of connectors in it. And then you can see the control that's on a browser. All right. So that's my story about connecting. I don't know whether anybody's got any other questions or not, or any comments. Any of you done anything that you like particularly? It's worked for you? Anybody done use Ham Radio Deluxe and use its control stuff? What do you all use as logging programs? Okay. Okay, DX for Win. Okay. When I have done Windows stuff, I used N1MM, which works well. I use CQR log for Raspberry Pi and Linux. So, all right. So, so I'm done with sharing. Anybody got any other comments or questions or?
A nice feature of the electronic, logs is that you can upload your logs to LOTW if you use that QRZ logging application as well. So these internet log databases where you can get confirmations back and EQSLs and things like that. Once you get it in the electronic log, it's very easy to just hit upload and do it. I do it like every day after I've been on the radio for any significant amount of time, I'll just hit LOTW upload and from my HRD logbook, and it's there. And I go back and check in an hour, and sometimes I've already gotten a confirmation back from the ham I just worked a few minutes ago, and he did the same thing. And so that's a confirmed contact if you want to use that for DXCC or Worked All States or some of those awards that, you know, will accept the electronic logs.
I have, I don't load mine up quickly because sometimes I end up being klutzy with the mouse and I'll end up with more than one entry in there. So I let CQR log accumulate them. And about once a day, I go out to the logging program and just transfer it. I transfer it to QRZ, then QRZ transfers to Logbook of the World. What I didn't pay attention to was the fact that I have to go out to Logbook of the World every so often and say, send us that back to QRZ to make sure it all gets in there. So, because I forgot that. I was wondering why I wasn't seeing many things after that weekend, that gorge of I had of contacts. And I went out to Logbook of the World and boy, I got 30 or 40 of them back again. So.
Another neat feature, if you still use traditional paper QSLs, I found that hams in Germany and Japan, for example, want paper QSLs. I get a envelope from the QSL Bureau about every 2 weeks, and they're full of German and Japanese stations that want that paper QSL. And I used to take my paper QSLs and fill in the information and send them back, sometimes direct if they send it to me, or sometimes via the outgoing ARRL QSL Bureau, which if you're not in a big hurry, it's a lot cheaper. But I bought a Brother label printer that works with this roll of labels of 500 labels on a roll. And I go to my Ham Radio Deluxe logbook and I tell it, there's the contact, and I tell it to print the information, and it'll print every QSO for that particular call sign of the other station on one label. You hit the button, it spits out the label in about 3 seconds. You pull the backing off, you slap it on the QSL card, and you're done. There's no more filling in all the little blanks on a QSL card. So once you get it in that electronic, log format, there's ways to save a lot of time, even if you're still using traditional paper QSLs.
Anybody else got anything that they do? Okay, you brought a loop, so we can see if we can get something on there. Yep. So I don't know how this is going to go, but we'll give it a shot. I think I need to be able to sit down. You can probably shut that thing down. Oh, in fact, I got to move that over here to well, let's just see if we can pick up anything. Oh. Yeah, I don't see any advantage in it. No, yeah, take out a Zoom. I don't need it right now. So, are you going to be on? I don't care. Well, I'm probably just going to listen for the moment, see if we get anything. Okay, interesting enough. Yeah.
Sir? I'm not sure.
Coax and down and goes at a right angle, rather than touching the roof, you get the button in the fall.
I don't understand the question.
Look at that.
Yeah.
In using mine.
Yeah.
I found out that instead of letting the coax hang by the roof.
Yeah.
If you make it come out about 12 inches, and come down.
Like this?
Yeah, exactly. You get better performance.
I don't know how to do that right yet. Can you crank the sound up so I can hear it hiss or something?
Yeah, it's hissing.
What frequency are you on?
You said 14, right?
40.
40. Oh,
But I can put.
that's
Yeah.
right. I'll put it on 40.
to get it, that's ballpark, to get it right, you have to key it up and like, take it so all the deacons in.
Oh, you key it up?
If you want a perfect, wherever you get in the frequency
Yeah,
and you want it to be perfect, just key it up and like.
I'm not hearing anything.
Which will catch you.
Okay, see you tune up a bit.
So this thing only has about 10 kilohertz of bandwidth,
Yeah,
but if, are we gonna get a residual frequency or something?
I don't think so. I think it's too late to get all that rigged up at this point. Okay, we got something real.
If we wanted to talk, then we could key. Then say something else in with that.
Can this thing handle 6 watts?
Yeah. Like something on fire.
Whiskey 4 Bravo Romeo uniform, testing 1, 2, 3. Whiskey 4 Bravo Romeo uniform. You got anything yet? All right.
Okay.
This does not have AGC. That sounds like AM to me.
It is.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think this is not worth demonstrating, quite frankly. Thank you for bringing it, though. All right. Well, I can't think of anything else, Mr. President, so
Right. If anybody wants to look at some of these things we brought in, step up. Otherwise, I think that's it for tonight.
okay. So anybody, any questions or comments at this point?